from the Sunday we met each other to today, the world has changed. Our whole conversation changed.
It has. It truly has. You and I had a sense that we would meet again. We didn't know it would be so soon. Obviously, the Supreme Court leak of the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade has changed everything. It's an earthquake, no doubt about it.
It was interesting because I first of all, am a fan, and so I'm letting our listeners know, and I set this up in the beginning of the podcast of how I've read several of your books. I've always thought that you were special and had a message for the world, and I'm sure you know that. You ran for president in 2020, which I thought was so courageous, and you are fearless to me in that capacity. But that's who you are. That's what you've been born to do. But I never thought that I would live in an age where, and I would hear people say they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade. I didn't feel like it was, I didn't sense the urgency. Did you?
Well, yes, because I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have legalized abortion. So I think people of a certain age have long felt, oh, younger women don't know. They don't get it. They've never lived in a time when they didn't have this legal right. And, you know, it changed everything sexually. It changes everything on such deep levels. Once women knew they could get a legal abortion, I think a lot of the sexual revolution emerged from that. This will make everything different, even in these deepest, intimate regions of should I, will I, won't I, things that have to do with most intimate aspects of our lives. So yeah, I, along with anyone who remembers, knew that this was bigger than a lot of younger people realized.
Then let's go there. When the time was you could not get an abortion legally, what was that like? What was the idea or images surrounded or thoughts about sex during that
Well,
time?
I wasn't in my sexual, I wasn't sexual yet. I'm not that old, but I was old.
Like, Cari,
Calm down, Cari.
you're like, I'm not that.
Careful.
Like, in my mind, I'm like,
no,
wait, we had this conversation.
No, it was enough that I was, I think it was 1973. I was born in 1952.
Mhm.
So I was already sexually active, but the whole thing that happened with the sexual revolution at that time, it just opened everything up. Even before that, discovery of the pill. There are so many things that, I think, Cari, of myself, is anybody who gets to a certain age, there's this phrase, keeper of the story. I think there are so many things which were different for better and for worse before the 1970s, before the 1980s. So yeah, I think the longer you are, the older you are, the more you have a sense of the historical trajectory that got us to where we are.
Where did the Democrats fail? I read your Substack, and you said this is a gross overreach, and I think we can be outraged. I saw Elizabeth Warren was angry. Everyone is angry, but where did we first see the cracks in the system towards the Supreme Court when it comes to the Democrats?
Barack Obama. Barack Obama said that when he was running, that he would make the codification of reproductive rights a priority in his administration. He said that he would do it. And then when he became president on this, as with a lot of things, he said, well, we shouldn't make a legislative priority. Then, as we know, when he didn't take the opportunity to appoint Merrick Garland when he could have, he thought, oh, Hillary's going to win. People say that apparently Barack Obama thought Hillary was going to win until the last minute. So he said, Hillary will appoint who she wants. I think I mentioned to you, Cari, because I live in Washington, D.C. People say it's a bubble. It's really more of a feeling of a walled city. So I think where a lot of people have been feeling like, this is dangerous, we should prevent this, we should do things, there's this sense living in Washington, D.C., oh, we can handle this or that, we'll have the Supreme Court. So the Democrats failed us entirely on this issue. And I think that if more women were in office, it wouldn't have been seen as such a lower priority.
The court is conservative. That Trump pushed in 3 of his appointees, which is unheard of. And we watched, and people were not outraged. at that moment. There were a small group who were very aware, but I think by and large, the world was so distracted with everything that was happening with Trump. He is the master of chaos. And because he created so much chaos, many of us, myself included, didn't understand the significance of pushing in 3 appointees. What did that do,
Oh, what
Marianne?
that did was to guarantee that they could do things like they've done right now. This was a very well strategized stealth campaign. These people have been planning this for years, and they've been saying that they were planning it for years. This is the thing about the Democrats and the entire neoliberal establishment that surrounds them. This lack of psychological perspicacity, this lack of recognition. If somebody shows you they're a jerk, they're a jerk. I mean, stop. It's like Susan Collins now is saying, I just can't believe that Brett Kavanaugh lied to me. Excuse me? You can't believe that he lied to you?
Mhm.
So, and even now, I find with Joe Biden, he doesn't seem that overly concerned.
Mm-mm.
He's not talking about, they could break the filibuster. He could use the bully pulpit to fight for that. You see the anger on the part of people like Bernie, like Elizabeth Warren, like Kirsten Gillibrand. But the powers that be, even within the Democratic Party, to really go to the mat right now, help's not coming from there.
And you said something that I think is important. The Republicans have been very clear. I call it, they've been very gangsta. They're like, this is what we're doing, watch us do it. Unapologetic, no questions asked. And if you have a problem with it, do something. There are no rules for them. So everything is on the table. So if they could, in the world that we live in right now, overturn Roe v. Wade, what's next? Is
Oh,
it
well, that's what
interracial?
everybody's talking about.
In your
Yes.
mind, what could it be?
Oh, they could make gay marriage illegal. They could make all kinds of trans rights illegal. I mean, they could really start coming after things one by one. The Republicans abuse power, but the Democrats, the Democratic establishment, doesn't use the power that it has. Barack Obama had a supermajority. Barack Obama had a time with a supermajority. What he could have done if he had actually chosen, once he was president, to be the president that he told us he wanted to be in 2008.
The problem is that I feel oftentimes the Democratic Party believes in the good of people, or at least they want to think that they do.
Well, then,
They're like, Joe always talks about his friends that he's been on the Hill with for years. These aren't his friends.
I know, exactly that. Well, actually, I think that really line applies more to Bernie Sanders, who keeps talking about my friend Joe Biden. How many times do your friends betray you before you stop calling them your friend?
Correct.
But it's interesting. These people, the Democratic elite, consider themselves such psychological sophisticates. They consider themselves such intellectual sophisticates. Anybody who's ever dated a jerk knows. Anybody. When are you going to grow up, wise up, and get that this is who this person is, and this is how this person is going to act?
Let me tell you,
that's whether it has to do, by the way, with the Republicans or with Vladimir Putin. The lack of psychological perspicacity that is involved in politics. And when anyone talks about how we need to start applying our deeper psychological understanding of people and events, they call that unsophisticated. They call that unqualified for leadership, when really that should be the main qualification for leading us into a new era of repair and regeneration.
That's the main qualification, because if you're able to understand people, who they are at some level, you know how they'll move, you know how how they will choose, how they will make decisions, and how it will affect you. And you just said it. Anybody who's dated a jerk, a guy jerk or a female jerk, apply it to any relationship, worked for a jerk. You know, once they show you, they show you. If you can look into the future, what type of leadership are you looking for this country? What's going to stop Trump? Because as we can see, they're putting every single card, they're putting everything in position to make sure that this man could have another shot.
And if not him, then Ron DeSantis, who I think is pretty much almost as dangerous, certainly.
Just as dangerous.
Not as dangerous. Yeah,
yes.
I agree with that.
Correct.
Well, the Democratic establishment thinks if we raise enough money, we can beat them. But that's kind of absurd. Hillary Clinton actually raised quite a bit more money than Donald Trump did. So I don't believe that Joe Biden would defeat Trump. I don't believe Kamala Harris would defeat Trump. I don't believe any of the establishment Democrats would defeat Trump.
I don't either.
Mm-mm. And I think one of the reasons they wouldn't defeat Trump is because they have proven during the time that Biden has been president that they're not willing to actually present to the American people a stark contrasting agenda to the corporatist agenda of the Republicans. I believe that our country is like a ship that is listing. It is almost full on its side. When Franklin Roosevelt was president, he and Eleanor Roosevelt talked about transitioning from the alleviation of distress to fundamental economic reform. The Democrats, the Republicans obviously don't care how many millions of people are suffering. They don't care. The Democrats wring their hands and they say they care and they give a little here and a little there to address the pain on the periphery, but they are not willing to challenge the underlying forces that make the perpetuation of that suffering inevitable. Now, the majority of American people are with us. The majority of American people want fundamental economic reform. The majority of American people want Medicare for all. The majority of American people want free college. The majority of American people want a higher minimum wage. The majority of American people want at least a substantial cancellation of the college loan debt. The average American gets it that the majority of Americans are being squashed here, that our government now, rather than supporting the dreams of the majority of Americans, are actually passing policies that squash the dreams of the majority of Americans. Even the issue of race, racial equity, racial justice, the average American, just the average American, even the average conservative gets, we really need to do something. And all you're going to do is make Juneteenth a holiday. Even there are righteous, high-minded conservatives who do get something's going on in these police forces. They're not people. The American people are not stupid. They understand about the infiltration of the Proud Boys, of the Oath Keepers, of the police, of what is this with these unarmed black men. I mean, people are not stupid, but we have a political corporatist agenda, neoliberal establishment where corporate money holds hostage our government to such an extent that the government itself has become a system of legalized bribery.
Yeah.